Okay, so back when I was young, we did something called school. We had to go to school, and the schools back then were nothing really like this woke, non-gendered, confused mess that's going on now. It's 2003, and our world has fallen to a state that's hard even for me to imagine, but suffice it to say that I got the tail end of school. We had to learn. We had to do stuff. We had to present ourselves. We had to do speeches. We had to memorize. We had to sell. We had to do a bunch of stuff. And I was just reminded when I was doing what I'm doing now. We had to do we were free to pick from a bunch of different stuff. One guy did a magic show. One guy sold us a car. What I did was I spent 10 or 15 minutes working my people up to show them something that had never been seen before. I would show it to them for 30 seconds, and no one would ever see it again. Don't have any idea what the exercise was called, except that we were supposed to draw in our audience and either convince them or in some way, it could be fool them in the case of the guy that did the magic tricks. But the point is, we had to effectively use our personality, our presentation, to change somebody's mind, for lack of a better term. Well, what I've got here today is not really relevant to that, but in a way it is. I'm going to show you some stuff that you've never seen before. I don't care if this channel someday starts getting views from, there's only so many shooters on the planet. I don't search for views because I don't want fans. I'm not an influencer. I don't want a bunch of nerveless people that just want to talk about stuff that they know nothing about. I run into a very, very esoteric group of shooters, those who are concerned with extreme accuracy, and in many cases, those that are concerned with extreme accuracy over long distances, with long distances starting at 300 plus yards. Most people in the world are going to be totally fulfilled by finding a rifle that they can handle, as far as recoil goes. Hopefully that has sufficient knockdown power and energy. I remember one time a guy came to me at work and he said he got invited to go duck hunting. And he had an old shotgun. They had offered a shotgun at this. Now, there's a few things you need to know about duck hunting. He was worried if he didn't hit anything, would he get any ducks? Let me assure you that when you're duck hunting with a group of guys, I could tell this story and make it a whole lot funnier, but suffice it to say, this fellow winged one duck that somebody else had to finish off after the dog brought it in flopping, but he came home with a boatload of ducks. Only a duck hunter knows what that means. But the point is, he came to me and he said, I got this old shotgun. I think it was actually a single shot. But none of that matters. He got it from his dad. And he said, I'm wondering what shells to buy and what to... They offered me a gun and they offered to just set me up and I could just pay him for shells, which of course never happened. They just gave it to him and gave him the shells and everything. But that's neither here nor there. I told him, stop, just stop. Don't try to figure this out on your own. You have no idea what you're getting. You've never been duck hunting. You don't know anything about the appropriate speed, knockdown power, barrel length. You're going to have a hard time hitting a duck no matter what. But don't you dare go out there with your single shot and some hopped up steely loads and try to knock a duck down with you being front sight. Take everything that they'll give you and give it a try, which he did. Where I'm going with this is, he didn't know what he didn't know. So I try to tell people, go with something that fits what you're doing. And I've just recently done some episodes as to how getting good information is really, really, really hard. Well, this is a little bit above and beyond an information video. This is going to get into anecdotals and opinions, but here's my thing. I have gotten to the point in my life where I require my extreme spread on all my loads, all the way up to 50 BMG, 30 cals, 338s, 90 grainers, 60 grain. When I say 90, I'm talking 90 grains of powder. 338s that are pushing 90 to 105 grains of powder. 30s that are pushing 70 to 95 to 100 grains of powder. 243s, 22s, all the way up and down the gamut. I run stuff hot, right at the top end of the envelope where it's not wrecking brass, which in the case of PPCs and such, without going any farther, is over 80,000 PSI. But that's sometimes what it takes. The point I'm trying to go to, though, is I require good extreme spread because a lot of the things I'm attempting to shoot are way out there. Generally targets in my case. But that doesn't matter. The point is extreme spread becomes a thing. Now we can fight and we can argue about all sorts of things from variable ballistic coefficient to stability. But in simple fact, you get your extreme spread down around 10 and it gets rid of a lot of the problems. All of a sudden it's pretty easy to get a water table. You get your extreme spread down and then you work and you find a tuning range, and trust me, I have to stop saying trust me, because in one side of my mouth I say don't trust me and then I say trust me. It's just a bad affectation that I've carried around for a long time, I guess. So I'm sorry about saying trust me. I will try not to say that anymore. But try this. Let's put it this way. Try this. Now, on that light, let me show you before I pan down where I had been at with the 50 fart blossom. The fart is languishing right now because I'm at a point where I need to hone in. I need to come down. I need to find out what I can do. And these are fart blossom loads up to 2 days ago. This is one that you haven't seen. These I've actually shown before, but I want to point out the verticalness and the fact that extreme spread is ruling the day here. Right here, I went 3 just before I started my latest experiment. I benchmarked again, and here we are, 1040, 1022, 1012. In my opinion, this gun's shooting, all right? But here's the problem. I've whined and grunted and cried before about how this thing beats me up and I'm a pussy and my shoulders and back. Well, when I shot this group of 3, about died. Where I'm going with this is, I'm at the point now where I'm getting the bugs worked out of the system, but it's killing me. It is thumping me large and righteous. I took a few days off. I came back to put down that 3-shot group with everything I knew, barring a few things that I'm going to talk about low extreme spread. I'm shooting a powder. This is the 13th or 15th powder I've tried. This is an antique can of Hercules. This is from back in the 70s, I would guess. The seal on the lid is not even a seal. I opened this thing up and it's rusted, as you can see. This powder been sitting there essentially unopened for a long time. It's in my overflow, but I'm honing in on a powder charge that fills as much as I can. And this is a neat thing I found out about this particular powder. I opened it up and I said to myself, I said, ball powder. Might as well just go on down. I don't think there's any more of this that I need to tell you about. So I said, ball powder, obviously. That looks a lot like ball powder. But it's not. Right now, because we're involved in national stupid and we were voting for retards, our supply chains are all screwed up and I can't just get powders like I've always been able to. So with that in mind, I'm digging and I'm dipping and I'm getting close on to 20 powders that I've tried with this thing, trying to get the extreme spread down. The problem I am starting to believe is something called primer effect. The biggest changes I've got, yes, it's been, and this is the thing, I got two parameters. I've got all these powders to try, and then I've got 7 different primers to try, and the primers ignite the powders differently. And so you can see I end up with like 79 permutations here, and these bullets are expensive. So I'm trying to shortcut as much as I can. And I have got 3 cases set up here that I have fired probably 35 times a piece at this point. I'm going to show you these cases because the reason I didn't shoot them now is because I've talked before, over and over, I talk about something called a scuff fit. And most of you probably think, number 1, I'm lying, or number 2, I'm at least exaggerating, or running the ragged edge of danger, or I don't know what you all think. I just know that this is the kind of stuff that you don't get from the loading book, because the loading book tells you that this stuff will kill you. See if I can show the scuff fit on these. We'll see. Might have to bring them up really close. But I decided to show these before I shoot them because it's starting to get dark outside. I'm running low on light. And I've learned enough that I'm going to be able to prognosticate a little bit here, I think. I'm going to bring these right up to where I'm sure you could see that scuff fit. You see those marks around there? The last thing I did before I came in here to do this video is I took these rounds out and I ran them into the gun and back out just so it would scuff the necks and show you that that's a scuff fit. I've got some of my latest, those groups that I just showed you are not where I'm at right now. I'm at a completely different place because I didn't lick the problem, but boy, I have made me some. I've made some real advances. Extreme spread. Again. This is the last. This is called a verification group, and I've shot about 30 of these. Just look, this is extreme spread between 40 and 12 feet per 1040, 1022, 1012. The gun seems to be, as it has been for a while, this has all been the fart blossom, but it maps the velocity. It shows the velocity. 1040 lands up here, you drop 20 feet per second off, and it's clear down here. This is like 12 feet per second per inch. 15 feet per second per inch. And I've been racking my brain trying to figure out, okay, I know how to achieve extreme spread. I do it all the time. As I said, in cartridges that range from all the way down at 25, 28-ish, 30-ish grains in the little BR stuff. By BR I mean bench rest. That includes all the BRs, all the PPCs, tall dogs, small dogs, wall dogs, short dogs, big dogs, stinky dogs. Up to the 240 grain loads. Shoot, my 50 BMGs, I'm shooting at between 230 and 245 grains. And 10 feet per second is not a big deal. 10, 12, 15, plus at that velocity, it doesn't show up. Here we are down at the bottom of the velocity window at 1,000 feet per second, and I am fighting extreme spread like you read about. But I'm getting down to the point where I'm starting. The problem with holding for these groups is you got to ride that gun down like a sack of fish. And I took a couple days off, as I was alluding to earlier, and went to work and this and that, let my shoulder blades heal up, and I came back and shot this test group, which I just showed you twice. And I held it and I rode it like a bag of meat, and it hurt so freaking bad. I said, I'm done. I'm done with that because I'm at the point now where I'm starting to throw side to side. The last 5 groups, the ES has been down around 10, and the groups are small, but now I can't, well, I should say I shot one after that, and it showed wider than tall. And I realized I'm hurting here. I am flinching, I am pulling, I am twitching, I am in pain. So, first thing I did was build this. This is 25 pounds of lead shot on a sliding carriage. Gun muzzle goes against here. I run this up. I try to find. Now, this is resetting the bags all the time. You know, it's like boom, and then you go reset the bags, and you try to get everything the same. So it's not perfect, but I'm shooting for group, but mainly I'm checking velocity. And my last 5 groups, only 2 of them are on here. I got to 3, and then I realized I need to get in here because I want to shoot these when I'm done, and they'll add. But on this scuff fit, I had one of these that was extra scuffy. Like, you go down, you can feel it hitting you, and you push it in. 2 of them went in exactly the same. The third one I actually had to hammer in with my palm. I feel like I've got bruising in my palm because I actually had to hammer it in because it was bound up so tightly here. These bullets have got a ring on them, a sealing ring. I'm not going to give you the diameters because Cutting Edge whips these things out and they have their own set of parameters. This is 1 diameter in the rear. This has got a obturation groove, and then a much larger ring, and then an obturation groove, and then this is set up to be a bore rider. This is another size entirely. It's a well-designed bullet at this point. I think it should shoot, and it's been shooting okay. They're not cheap, so I don't just pound through these, but a diameter, a diameter, and a diameter. So I set these with enough neck tension that they crimp over and they still lock down here and they're tight in here. You can't get them, I mean I can't, there's no, they're I don't know, 100 pounds it would take to pull them apart, let's say. But I had one case that was a little, it was hard to get in. Now understand, this is what I mean when I have said scuff fit. I mean it's touching in the chamber. I mean it's jammed. This is the, I went out, this one went in smooth and loose, 1,030. This one went in smooth and loose, 1,034. This is the one I had to hammer in with my thumb, or with my palm. Jammed case. It only bumped it up around 10 feet per second, although that could be an anomaly. So I went out and shot another group, but I didn't do it that day. I ran out of time. Today, before I did this video, I went back down. Fouled bore, dirty, dirty, dirty. I took some loads that I had loaded last night or the night before. This was the first shot with my new shot bag. 996. Bore's probably got, well, 6, 8 rotations, 25, 30 shots through it. It's dirty. And then I went up to 1024 and 1022. These closely matched, and the loads were at a different temperature. It's not the outside temperature that matters, it's the heat sink, the actual temperature of the powder throughout. These I had left out in my shooting area. They were laying there ready to go, so they were probably 20 degrees colder than the ones I'd been loading and shooting out of this warm room. So I expected them to be a little low. 996 ran low. That could be the fouling in the way. It could be anything. It could be just the way the thing shoots. But the point is, this is the best extreme spread I've got by a huge, huge margin. I'm down in the 10 or 15s here from the 25s and 30s that you've been seeing, and 50s. And I'm doing something that I don't think anybody here has ever heard of or seen or known about. But it harkens back to when I was fresh out of gunsmithing school, there was a guy that first of all thought I knew stuff because I had been to school. And he was playing with 22 Hornets while I was in the gun store. They were his thing, and you can never get 22 Hornets to shoot. Absolutely impossible. He ended up buying a couple of barrels and making a couple of K Hornets. This guy was fanatic about the Hornet. I came to the conclusion in my mind after this debacle was over that I have told people for 30, 40 years that in my opinion, the problem with the 22 Hornet is that the primer effect is so big that it screws up your extreme spread. But I've never known of or seen or heard of a 22 Hornet that will shoot as good as a 22 250. So with that in mind, one of the things that he and people on there were no forums back then, but there's still a network of shooters. And somebody said, try aluminum foil under the primer. I laughed it off at the time, and I had no interest in the Hornet, so I didn't ever do anything with it. But years later, I'm on the forum, and there's guys talking about how they cleaned up their aggregates by putting aluminum foil under their primers. So I went back, I made myself modified this tool till I get something that works like this. Now I have to take something like this pen and iron it down in there, get it to where it doesn't come out. And then this is a cheese hole priming tool, but this is the priming tool I've been using for these tests. And I just go through a few pulsations of it and spin it here just to get that primer seated. Could be totally bogus, but I'm running super tight fits. This headspace is crush fit of about 1 thou, but it's on solid brass. There's no movement. I want to make sure the primers aren't up. I want to get that primer loaded. It doesn't matter. Went back to this old idea, put myself some aluminum foil in there, and at this point, with only 4 groups down the pipe and going for a 5th one as soon as I shut this off, I've got 1,020, 1,030-ish feet per second, around 1,000 feet per second, and it certainly looks like. So I wanted to do this now because I wanted to show you that when I say scuff fit, I mean scuff fit. These are scuffing when they go in and out. I'm now going to remove that. I'm going to loosen it up, get myself a little clearance, and I'm going to move into a sequence with my new over-the-shoulder boulder holder recoil protector to keep myself sane, and moving into the next phase, and I'm going to shoot a bunch of groups and try to validate this, but I just wanted to put this out. This is my way. This is what I'm going to do. Just throw it out there and see if it's going to work. And then I get egg all over my face, or I don't. It's hero or not day. So, enjoy it. Thanks for listening.